This week we're going to be talking about stress and health. And certainly we usually think about stress as being a negative thing that we have to avoid or manage, prevent. But there's also some evidence that it can benefit our well-being as well as our performance. But recognizing that it is negative, sometimes we'll think about some methods of coping, looking at how stress is associated with health and how certain personality factors can actually mediate that relationship. And then on a positive note, also be thinking about some ways that we can increase our happiness. And so all of these topics are touched on within the textbook reading that is assigned here. And then I've also provided some online resources that get at this topic. This video is something I came across a couple months ago, and I really like it because it reviews this recent evidence that stress can be beneficial. The key is we have to believe that it's beneficial. We have to know that. And so I think this is a really eye-opening piece of information. But recognizing that stress also has negative effects, I have provided you with this article that I think is really great because it goes beyond the usual stress management techniques. Sure, you know that taking deep breaths is helpful, getting some exercise, spending time with pets is going to be great. But there's also some other, maybe less well-known methods of reducing stress. And so I skipped down here to the 4 A's of avoid certain stressors, alter your life to the extent that you can to reduce the stress, adapt when possible, and then also, this is kind of in the serenity prayer for Alcoholics Anonymous, accept what we cannot change. And so there are a number of really great suggestions in this resource. And then finally, I have also provided you with a set of readings that get at the discussion board topic of looking at the link between who we are, our personality, how we respond to situations, and our health. So this gets at the whole field of health psychology. And what I've provided you with is a whole list of articles. I want to emphasize you are not expected to read all of these. I'm not telling you to read all of them. But what I am telling you is to look at them, skim them, and identify what topic do you want to focus on for this week's discussion board. So this week's discussion board is asking you to identify one personality trait. So maybe you want to look at extroversion, or you want to look at impulsivity or hostility, and look at how that relates to our health. And then you can go ahead and skim these topics and find, all right, where are the articles that relate to my particular topic, and just skim or review those articles so that you have enough information to write your discussion board response or discussion board post. And before I jump over to that discussion board, I did want to just bring your attention to the fact that I've provided several other videos that are all optional, but they are either relevant to the discussion board. Potentially this one gets into how a healthy marriage is good for your physical health. And then these are some other suggestions on how to manage stress and promote happiness. They're relatively short clips, but contain some really powerful suggestions. All right, so I talked about the discussion board. Let's go over to the learning activities. You have really 2 required things. One certainly is to contribute to that discussion board. You're also expected to provide a comment to this week's APR article, which sounds rather ominous, excessive TV watching linked with early death. By the way, excessive was deemed more than 3 hours a day. And then there's also the option to post on this week's blog activity. So I'll move down to the discussion board first. As I said before, what you're looking at is linking a particular personality trait with health. So you're really choosing one trait. If you want to choose more than one, that's fine. But I would really prefer you to go more in depth about one personality trait than to just touch on 5 or 6. All right, so you will be talking about the evidence for there being a link between that personality trait and a particular aspect of health. But I also want you to, if you can, keep in mind that this is a correlation. And so if you can talk about possible third variables, why might hostility be linked with increased incidence of heart disease? What's going on there? Is there something that's making a person more hostile and making a person more likely to have heart disease? Is there maybe a directionality problem? Could heart disease cause you to be more hostile? Or if you can't think of that, at least considering why might that link exist? Why might hostile people be more prone to heart disease? So make sure that your discussion board post is that you're summarizing a bit of the relevant data, but you're also offering some reflection on that data and that link. So your post, as usual, is due Thursday. This discussion board is a little bit different though, because you won't be able to see what anybody else is posting on until after you have submitted your post. And Blackboard's not going to let you go back in and edit your post, so make sure that what you're posting is solid and ready to review. And then, of course, you do have 2 responses that are due by Sunday night. So that's your main learning activity that's probably going to take you the most time. The other thing that is expected of you is that you post that comment to the APR Wiki. So for this, of course, you will go to your particular group, and then you will go to the group wiki and find the week 6 APR, read over the summary, and then you have these analysis questions. Choose one or more and hit the comment and add it in. This is also a week when you have a possible blog topic. Now, as I emphasized back in week 4, you are only expected to post a blog to 2 of the 4 topics. All right, so a lot of people tend to like this topic. It's asking you how you manage stress and what changes you might make, but you are not required to post this week. So just keep it in mind, 2 out of the 4 possible blog topics. If you do decide to post, that blog needs to be up by the end of the week. And keep in mind that by the end of week 10, you will need to respond to a blog in each of the 4 weeks. So you might do that this week, maybe you don't. And then finally, in addition to these learning activities that are related to this week's topic, there's also the extra credit assignment that's related to last week's topic of the brain damage. And so for this, you will go back to your group's Padlet. And you can do that by going back to week 5 and accessing it the same way you did in the past. And to enter the extra credit, you're going to complete a journal entry. So you'll click Create Journal Entry and write out your group name right here. So maybe you are in green group. And then right here, you would say, all right, for Ella, let's say that's the person who had the brain damage. Ella has parietal damage, and then you would say the reason why I think Ella has parietal damage is that she was showing problems with blah, 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 blah. The way that it works is that you will be getting a half point for getting the actual brain damage correct, and then you will be getting 1 point for the explanation. So the explanation really is key. I've tried to go through all the Padlet cases, make sure that they are diagnosable, that they look the way that they're supposed to look, and thank you to those of you who made some modifications. And this extra credit needs to be in by Sunday night, just like the rest of the assignments. As always, if you have questions, you can certainly post them to the all-course discussion board or reach out to me. I look forward to seeing what you have to offer this week. Bye, folks.